going to cover Hamas first, then we're going to cover Mueller, then we'll get to the Q at the very end. Now, the Hamas violence is increasing to some extent. I mean, it's you'll see more of the numbers coming out at the Gaza Strip and protesting the move of the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. Now, first of all, I want to make sure everybody understands who Hamas is. Hamas is a largely terrorist organization that is Sunni, so it's not aligned with Iran directly in that Iran is Shiite. The Sunnis believe in secular leadership of Islam, the caliphates, like Turkey in the Ottoman Empire was a Sunni caliphate. ISIS, wanting a caliphate, is Sunni. The Iranians want the Mahdi to come back, the little boy descendant of Muhammad who went down a well in some 500 or whatever AD. When he comes back, it's going to take an apocalypse to bring him back, and then there'll be Sunnis will, the Shiites will triumph, the Iranians, the Shiites will triumph worldwide. Kevin Kargas, thank you. So what we're seeing here is that Hamas, Sunni, has now taken over the Palestinian movement to a large extent. The Palestinians are claiming that they're the ones who were thrown out of Israel when Israel was created in 1948. Harry Truman decided to allow the partition of then Palestine, which is what Israel was called at that time, by the UN, and Israel was created. By the way, that night Ben Gurion went to bed. He was the prime minister of Israel, one of the founders of the modern Israel, and he was woken in the middle of the night and told Egypt had attacked, trying to destroy the Jewish state. Now, Hamas and the Palestinians are really not the Palestinians who were thrown out of Israel when Israel was created. They weren't thrown out. They were allowed to stay, and many of them are there today, their descendants, and have actually citizenship in Israel. This group of Palestinians was put together largely by Yasser Arafat, who was an Egyptian, born in Egypt, and he was Muslim Brotherhood. And this group of kind of refugees that came together as Palestinians were first thrown out of Jordan, and then they were thrown out of Lebanon, and now they've settled in Gaza, where the Iran, even though they're Shiites, support Hamas. They have tunnels from Egypt, and most of those have been closed now, but not entirely, where they try to bring in rockets from Iran and fire them on Israel. The Hamas group is a radical terrorist group, and it hates Israel. It's sworn to eliminate Israel. And at this fence, what the protesters are doing is they're trying to break into across that fence from the Gaza into Israel to riot, cause trouble, have terrorist activity, whatever they can do to cause disruption. Now, Israel has had this before, and Israel, I think, will continue to resist this. Ultimately, Israel, from time to time, has had incursions into the Gaza to try to militarily put down the more radical elements of Hamas. The Palestinians, of course, don't view Hamas as terrorists, and they view that Islam has the right to Jerusalem as its capital. And so you basically got a struggle between the two entities, neither one of which wants to compromise on Israel. The Jews have the claim of Israel being the historic biblical capital of Israel, and that goes back thousands of years. And so the attempt to have a two-state solution, which was one of Jimmy Carter's big efforts in his presidency, has never succeeded. And what we've got now, I think, is that, most Americans are, to a large extent, have been heard the propaganda campaign of the United Nations, which is solidly pro-Palestinian and would be just as happy to have Israel eliminated. I continue to point out, if Israel were eliminated, the next thing Iran would do would be to fight the Shiites against the Sunnis. That's the ultimate battle within Islam. It isn't against the Jews in Israel. Uh, Iran and Iraq had a 10-year war in the 1980s where millions were killed. They were fighting Sunni against Shiite. So what my expectations are is that for the next few days, we're going to see a continuation of this violence along the border and the Gaza Strip. But I don't think it's nearly as intense as I thought it would be when the capital was declared. And I think we're going to see now a series of other governments coming in and declaring that Jerusalem will be their embassy and is the capital of Israel. I think it's actually an historic moment. And my solution to the Middle East has always been that eventually the Muslim states will accept Israel. To a large extent, Egypt has now accepted Israel. The Jordan has, and it appears the Saudis are working with the Israelis. Certainly, Anwar Sadat in the 70s in Egypt signaled that Egypt was finished trying to destroy Israel after several wars. And I think this is the future of a Middle East which can live together without one side or one faction trying to destroy the others. And I believe the Israelis will stay in Israel, and I don't foresee any way the Israeli state will be eliminated.